Hello, this is Paige from Wizing Moments, and I have another design breakdown video for you. So this layout shows our Ellis Island dies, and Ellis Island is a really fun one. If you're wondering why it's called Ellis Island, it's because if you go to Ellis Island in the building, on the island, they actually have little architectural details that look like this die. So that is what inspired the name, because it may not make sense otherwise, but Tammy Potter, who designs this die, she finds inspiration everywhere. There are people who say they saw the die somewhere, like maybe the door looked like one of her dies, or they were at a building, and that's where she gets her inspiration from, is all these buildings. But I'm going to continue with the design breakdown and talk about what makes this layout work. So again, we have Ellis Island is great in that you can use it 4 times in the layout and you're basically done. I mean, obviously you have to take the time to fill it in, but you're done in the sense of you're not having to figure out all, the placement of the die cuts or something like that. It's really quick. So with a die like this, and we have some other ones that are a 5x5 size with a similar effect, it's going to matter how you fill the die cuts. And so something to consider is before you start planning, so with something like this, I recommend planning your photos before you start cutting. You can get your die cuts in, but then carefully think about where you're going to put the photos. So what you want to do is look at what kind of shapes are in here. So Ellis Island has diamond shapes, it has triangular shapes, it can create a square shape. So that's what you want to look at with a die like this, is what kind of shapes do I want to show for the layout I'm creating. So in this case, I wanted to feature the diamond you can create. And then how did I show that really well is I use pattern paper. So I have all my photos in the center here that obviously form the diamond shape. And then I found a contrasting paper that also coordinated with the background. This paper has a pretty dark background, which is different. These photos were taken during the day, and so this was a great contrast. There's also a lot of color going on. I have some color up here, but it's mostly green, and so that helps the contrast as well. So that's what I like to point out. If you want to show off a particular shape in the overall design, to pick something contrasting, pattern paper is great for that. You could also use cardstock. For me, cardstock can feel a little plain, so that's why I like pattern paper. And even with this one, I have the big diamond, but then we have little diamonds here. So I purposely made the photo so these sections, all of 4 of these, have the same photo going across each section. So it emphasizes one diamond. And then over here on the right and left sides, I decided I partially did this so I could fit in more photos, but I got 1 photo per space instead, and then it shows off this diamond and this diamond as well. And you can see how each one is broken down with these little triangle shapes as well. So it is a really awesome way to feature this really cool geometric design. It's also important to pick where your photos are going to go. Make sure you plan it out. I had to really think about, how are these things going to fit the best in these little spaces. Same thing with these as well. It could be helpful to use, for dies like this, it's really helpful to have dies at a distance, but it can be fun to add something like this. So something to consider when using something like Ellis Island die is the cropping. Cropping is a lot of fun. I don't recommend having a big photo of someone's face here and all you see is their eyeball or something. That might be a little strange unless that's what you're going for. Maybe it's Halloween or something. But you want to consider how these photos are going to crop. And the thing is, it looks more unique cropped in a triangle than a square, which is mostly what we show on like our basic die pages, right? So carefully consider the cropping. Does it work for your photo? But also be open-minded. Like, you don't see the entire flowers in these, but it is a unique effect to have this fit in that triangular space. And it does catch your eye because you're like, oh, that's a little bit different. And I actually really appreciate these two photos because it helps me focus on the beauty and texture of these flowers and the color. It actually draws my attention a bit more and adds interest to those photos in comparison to a square photo. Of course, nothing wrong with cutting things into squares either, because sometimes it's good to go simple. But I want you to use these dies to your advantage. Make something grab your attention more than normal. Don't look at cropping as, I think sometimes it can feel very limiting, but instead looking at it as an artistic opportunity to give people a unique view on your scrapbook pages. I did use a lighter blue for the Ellis Island die to stand out on this, and it really makes this pattern paper pop as well. Sometimes it's really hard to find the perfect color when you have light things and dark things. You kind of have to try to find something in the middle. But yeah, that's what I encourage with level 3 dies, is trying to find something that's as contrasting as possible. Of course, it's not always super contrasting, but that's okay. And I really like this layout partially because there's warm and cool in here. So I have a cooler background. So this pattern paper has a lot of warmth. And obviously these two photos and a little bit here have warmer colors. And sometimes making everything warm can be a good thing. Like, I could have chosen a warmer background, and I don't think that would have looked bad, but I do like the blue and how it kind of calms everything down, right? We're in a garden. So even with all the bright colors, you can say all the bright chaos, there's something a little more cooling and relaxing about it. So the blue with the warm is also a very nice contrast and something to consider if you're feeling like your page is too bright. Maybe you find a cool color to go with it. All right, I think that's all I have for you today. Let me know in the comments below if you liked this layout and what stood out to you about this layout. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.